How did you communicate the transition to a global brand with the merger with Euronext?
That was a big challenge, and I'd like to think that we did it well. One unfortunate piece of it was that in creating the name, the name became NYSE Euronext. And you would introduce yourself at a conference or somewhere, and you would say you're with NYSE Euronext, and people would say, NY what? By saying NYSE, you submerged the New York Stock Exchange name a bit. But you again had a lot of learning to do as part of that merger. New colleagues, new ways of doing business in Europe, certainly very distinct from the ways of doing business in the United States. I think that it extended the New York Stock Exchange's brand and reputation onto a new level, a more global level. We had always had listed companies from around the world on the stock exchange, but it's different when your company is part of that country in a very different way. When you've got an exchange in that country, when you are now partnered with the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, with the Lisbon Stock Exchange, etc.
By the time ICE acquired NYSE, did they still see themselves as the center of the universe?
Certainly, when you lose market share, that's a humbling thing. The question then becomes, are you going to compete? Are you going to make acquisitions? Are you going to form new exchanges? Are you going to introduce new ways of doing business to compete? The environment was shifting very, very rapidly and very significantly. And the question becomes, okay, what are you going to do about it? You can't just stand on the old soapbox and say, hey, we were the stock exchange. Where did everybody go? You had to actively go out and get those customers in new ways.
What were the biggest roadblocks you faced while pushing for a more inclusive environment?
The Diversity Council was the brainchild of Dick Grasso, who wanted to make sure that the exchange as a company was attracting and retaining and developing the best and brightest that it could. And so it was really a staff initiative as opposed to the members. But we did develop, between the staff and the membership, working groups that worked together for these goals. It was very successful in a number of ways. Culturally, you get, via these groups, a better understanding of each other, better understanding of people who are unlike yourself. And that goes a long way. At the same time, a diversity council can't diversify the membership itself. Back in that day, membership was conveyed via the purchase of a seat and purchase of a membership and the passing of exams. So that was something that the staff could not directly affect, but I'd like to think that the cooperative spirit among the staff and members made a big difference for both.
How has the idea of diversity changed from this time to your time at FINRA?
Back then, it was all about diversity, and over time, the practice grew and expanded so that you were talking about not only diversity, it was also then about equity and inclusion. Equity being treating people fairly and justly, and inclusion, making sure that people feel a sense of belonging, that they're being heard, that they have an opportunity to contribute. So the practice, it grew over time and expanded over time. It also more recently became somewhat of a political football, and that introduced more complexity to it. But the things that I learned, both as members of the councils over the years and also via trainings that I took over the years, stay with me today. And they made me a much better manager, a much better colleague, and much more attuned to how the entirety of the team can pull together and bring different strengths to achieve a great result.
Now that you are independent, what is the one truth you feel like you can say?
Fear not. There's nothing to be afraid of in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not about replacing people. It's not about favoring one group or over another. What it's really about in a business sense, in a financial sense, is granting people access, granting people an opportunity. People who would never be able back in the day to get in the door for an interview, getting them in that door and seeing if they are indeed the best person for that job. It's sad to me that finance, which is a fountain of opportunity for America, it's an engine of economic growth. It's a way for individuals to build their wealth. It's a way for them to participate in economic growth that drives the economy itself, creates jobs, creates manufacturing, creates services and products. If that door is not open to everybody, it's much less valuable. It doesn't work nearly as well. Back in my stock exchange days, you would see a big crowd around the trading floor, and you would know that the maximum number of buyers and sellers were all interested in what was going on in that company at that moment. We need the maximum number of buyers and sellers all weighing in on the American economy, on what they want to buy and sell. That's the heart of what capitalism can be. It's opportunity for all.
What is the theme of your Substack, and why should I sign up?
The theme is diversity, equity, inclusion, and communication, how those things come together, how those things benefit from each other. I'm going to be drawing on the experiences that I've had over time to share my perspective as a white man in finance who has seen the benefits of creating diverse, inclusive work environments.
What would you tell your young self about the future?
I would tell that young guy who had dark hair at the time to keep introducing new ways to communicate, because our markets are very, very dynamic. They're the leading markets in the world. Where the markets are heading, the United States is going to get there first. And that can be both good and bad. You want it to be for the good, but keep on looking for new ways to communicate because the audience keeps changing. I was at a conference not 10 years ago. I was on a panel talking about social media. And my fellow panelists asked the crowd, who were mostly MBA students, how many of them were on Snapchat? How many of them were on LinkedIn? How many of them were on Facebook? There were no hands going up for Facebook. There were a lot of hands going up for Snapchat. How many hands would be going up now for Snapchat? This is just a few years ago. TikTok was not even on the horizon at the time. Things will keep on changing. Stay with the changes, invest in them, engage with them, and keep looking for new ways to communicate the value and the strategy that you're working on.